Hi everybody, Greg Heilman here with the Sound on Stage. Today we are in Spanaway, Tacoma adjacent, I guess you could call it. We are at E-Man Construction, set design, set builds with Erik Furuheim, who is well known to people throughout the area from Bainbridge all the way in through Seattle for his wonderful set designs that the past couple of years we've nominated a few times for awards. And always been on my list of folks who do wonderful work with sets. So we want to talk to Erik here. First of all, Erik, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And we want to talk a little bit about the craft of set design. How you take a vision from a director and create a physical representation of that. But
sure.
First of all, let's get into how you got started.
Sure.
With doing set build work.
Well, I guess my first real time diving into it was, junior high. Carl Olson, the teacher over in the South Kitsap area, was my very first director, and I followed him all through high school, and we're still friends to this day. Very good man. He kind of got me into the acting world, and through that, we did the junior high version of sets. And then when I got up to the high school, South Kitsap at that time had one of the best stagecraft classes in the country. So they were in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. And learned just a ton of things: design, lights, building, all of it. And I just had a real big passion for it. And we were able to create some real cool stuff. And then it just kind of transcended to some of the community theaters in the Port Orchard area. And then I moved to Southern California, and I realized there's so much more that can be done. And a very good friend of mine, I would say my mentor, Brian Newell, owns the Maverick Theater in Fullerton, California, and I was down there for almost 10 years. And I still go down every once in a while and I build with him. He's one of my best friends. And he just kind of opened my eyes and just kind of took me on a journey through theatrical technology and thinking outside the box to create just amazing storytelling. And it's fascinating to see. He was doing stuff with projections way before projections were like mainstream, and he does live video feeds and things like that. They do a King Kong version where King Kong's on one side of the set, or one side of the theater, utilizing miniatures, and there's a camera on that, and then there's a rear projection screen where the audience and the actors are interacting with this giant screen of a monkey, and it's just a fantastic, fun thing.
That sounds super creative.
It is very, very. So it was very fun to just see that, and I worked with him hand in hand. We built a theater together from the ground up, and yeah, I've had a passion for it ever since. So
you've done some acting, you've done some, obviously, predominantly staged build and stage design and build work. How does one, in your opinion, help the other? So how does? Because it sounds like you've done a lot of the behind the scenes stuff too,
sure,
lighting and things like that. How does? Yeah. Because as an actor, you don't necessarily, if you're just an actor, don't necessarily have the insight into a lot of that behind-the-scenes stuff.
Sure.
And maybe vice versa, but you've done both.
Sure. Directing, writing, I've done a lot of things, actually. I've really immersed myself in the storytelling process. And so I would say, I'm biased because I really love the technical aspect of things. Art is art, and it's clearly subjective, as you know. And so, you could do things with just a black box and a square, and it'd be some of the most riveting storytelling based on the acting. But you can also take a story and transcend that into something completely different with sets and costumes and lights and smoke and project, you name it. So puppets, yes. Things like that. So I think that the two are very, it's important to have both, being thought of in the process. Mm-hmm. So when you're producing a show, you get in early, you talk about the vision, and then you look at the budget, which is really the biggest thing right now. There are some theaters that have a reasonable budget. Some theaters that are unfortunately, struggling, are like, it's like, $500 budget. And it's like, A piece of plywood is
Yeah,
$65 nowadays.
Yeah, just think a box of scraps and that's all I have.
Yeah, you know, but we make magic even
Yeah.
with stuff like that. So we do what we can, and I try to match the budgets within, or work within budgets for the different theaters, and and this obviously size and location and all of that stuff. So it's kind of all over the place. I don't know if that answers the question or
absolutely.
not.
Well, you mentioned vision and things like that. So I wanted to talk about that. I kind of mentioned that in the beginning. What I wanted to talk about was how do you take when you're building a set, a director's vision,
Sure,
and then make that into something that's tactile and just a solid thing. So
Sure.
Talk me through that process.
Well, just like any kind of collaborative process, the costumer is going, oh, I want an 80s feel, so they're going out and they're looking for 80s type costumes, and they present. It's similar in that same vein. A lot of times they're like, I want a second story, and I want a trap door, and I want someone to fly in, or whatever the case may be. And then the process that I use for that is I read everything. I sit down and I listen to what the director wants and the feel and how they want, what they want for the story, and then or in genres or whatever. Like I'm building Cabaret for Bainbridge right now, and it's doing, it's very Art Deco, but it's also very, very political and everything else. And so there's been a lot of fun pieces that we can add to, create that. Obviously, I need a bench, and I need a chair, and I need a staircase, and all of that stuff. But I would say that it's different with every director and every production team. Some directors really have no concept of the stage piece of it, so they let me kind of do my stuff, which has been wonderful. I did Book of Will recently and expressed to the director kind of the ideas. They wanted projections, and I'm like, well, it's Elizabethan era, so let's do scrolls instead of projection screens.
And that was also the Bainbridge?
Yes, that was up from Bainbridge, yes. But it was fun because the director really wasn't sure, and then when I actually created it and put it on paper, she was like, okay. And then when it was live and there, she almost cried. She was so very, very happy. And so the process, there's trust, and then there's being able to see the vision. So yeah, sorry, I'm long-winded. I'm passionate about it.
That's okay. I'm intrigued by this. This is an area of stagecraft and that I haven't really spent much time in, so I am just as curious as I hope everybody else is about it. Well, let's talk about Book of Will, because that's, I think, one that underscores a question I have about complexity of a story, and where I'm going with that is multiple locations on a specific set. So you've got one set, you don't have necessarily the opportunity to bring huge pieces in and out between scenes. How do you approach a story like that where you need to depict multiple scenes or multiple settings on one stage, but it's all the same piece?
Well, a lot of that actually isn't set as much as it is lighting. I would say I'm going to give lighting 80% of that one, because you could do a scene in front of a curtain and it could be 5 different types of things based on the lighting. It really just, it depends on where the story is. Like, for example, Book of Will, there was a couple pieces where it's in a bedroom, on a bed, and then there's another one where it's at the theater kind of thing, and so what my approach to that was more of a, the majority of the show took place in the pub that was attached to the Old Globe, which, there's no pictures or anything of that by any means, but there was one drawing that was just this little tiny shed that was next to the building. And so, I kind of took that and made it what's the word I'm trying to look, I had part of the set crumbling away, so it was almost more of an art piece than it was a location. I would say that. The rafters disappeared, and you could see the Old Globe behind, with a projection and so on and so forth. So we kind of created something that was versatile because it wasn't necessarily a descript location.
Right.
And then again, the lighting.
Yeah. Well, with the lighting, so do you sit down with the lighting designer and say, hey, this area of the set represents this. This is kind of this, so we need to make sure that we don't see this when we're seeing that part of it?
I haven't actually. This is kind of a stay in your lane kind of thing, right? Because everybody, the lighting designers are artists themselves, and that's a very, very fine-tuned craft. So, it really, we have production meetings, and, I give my feelings for, the set, and hey, this, like the crumbled window, I had to wrap a cyc around so we could have color behind there, and things like that, and you have to kind of express. I designed it so these are the lighting pieces, For Cabaret, we have a very big light piece that I had to kind of work with. I don't want to give it away until the end, but it's a very big part of, and it should be very shocking and cool when it happens. But it took a lot of detail and wiring and getting everything prepped, as well as working with the lighting designers to make sure they were on board with what I'm building.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, so you've done Book of Will. You've done, and not to say that that's all you've done, because you've done sets throughout the area that I'm aware of since I started covering theater. But right now, you're working on Cabaret at Bainbridge. What else are you working on?
I'm going to be doing Damn Yankees. I believe it's Reboot was that one, and then there's Red Rover has hired me to do another show, an original show called Abacus. I've got I'm prop master for Matilda with Highline. I'm not on contract for the next shows, but I've been doing stuff at Auburn. I did Little Shop, which is where I procured said plants, and then I did Into the Woods up there, and then oh my goodness, where else? I'm teaching as well. I'm doing some stagecraft classes and things like that for kids. I built the Hunt Middle School Addams Family recently, and so I'm trying to just keep this place open and keep theater alive, and doing what I can for anybody. So hire me.
Yes, well, hopefully we can help get the word out, because I could just list off the number of sets that you've done that I've been impressed with, level of detail and all of that, and color palettes. I'm thinking things like Music Man at TMP, or Singing in the Rain last year, or Book of Will. The color palettes. Let's talk about that a little bit. So each stage and each vision, each story is has a number of things that inform the set, and colors are part of that. How do you go about choosing a color palette for your set, for instance?
Well, it depends. A lot of times painters will be a part of that. If you have a scenic painter that is separate. Bainbridge has scenic painters. There are other places where I'm doing all of it. And so it also kind of goes down to, that's a costuming collaboration, because for example, I'm doing rope at Renton Civic. I just did that. And Bill over there, the director, said, I want it to be red and dark and all of this. So I picked a very dark navy blue and this really beautiful red fabric to kind of adorn the set and everything. And so it looks very 1920s. Looks kind of macabre and creepy because it's a Hitchcock, kind of show. And so it really depends on the story. When we did Music Man, there was a designer that actually worked that one. I built it for the most part. We say co-design because they give us a drawing, and then I have to also build the bridge and all of the other pieces to it, and that's the design feature on a lot of those. So there's a lot of collaboration on those. But when it comes to color, it really just depends on the feel, the story. Is it going to be monotone, or is it going to be pastels, and what if it's a black set and everyone's wearing black, they disappear. So you have to work costuming in too. So again, it's just having production meetings and saying, hey, here's things to think about.
Yeah, and Hello Dolly is going to be different than Sweeney Todd.
Sure is.
So you've some of the theaters, I know we've talked of just the shows you mentioned. So Renton Civic, you're doing the reboot, which is going to be a theater off Jackson, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
Theaters with different stage sizes, different dimensions. What are the most challenging aspects of working on stages with different dimensions and layouts?
Well, I mean, obviously, you would love to have a fly system, and you look at TLT's got that amazing mechanical turnstile and everything, and there's so many cool things that you can do. You can do more with a space like that. Flying things in and out makes scene changes in different locations really a lot simpler, things like so on and so forth. But when you do have a smaller space, it doesn't mean you can't, wow the audience with a set. I've seen so many little things that, could blow you away just based on, I think Jesus Christ Superstar reboot last year had some TVs and stuff like that. It was a very small space, but it was such a fun idea, and it was just really, really fascinating and interesting to look at as kind of a backdrop for the story. So there's lots, and I didn't do that one, but I was just taken back by how small that was and how cool use of the space. When I was building stuff in Southern California, we didn't have a very big space. We had almost no wing space on our Cabaret side. We had two theaters, riser seats on one end, so everybody played on the floor, and then our Cabaret space. And so we try to make it as versatile as we can, and it really just depends on the call, the budget, and the vision and what we can do. I mean, I always tell directors, give me everything that you dreamed of, and then I'll hack at it based on the budget. It's kind of how it works.
Budget is always a limiting factor. There's always, when we talk about project management, there's scope, schedule, and budget, right?
Sure.
Those are the things you've got to work within. The schedule, it takes time to build these things. It takes money to build these things, and it takes the ability of you. Now, do you ever work with more than one person when you're building a set, or do you just gather volunteers?
No, I mean, well, it depends. Yes, the answer is yes to that. I like currently where I'm working, I've got a technical director of the space is there helping and doing things, and I have a volunteer also helping me out. I mean, I do a lot of the big builds here just because I have the table and I don't have to be on the ground. It makes life easier. But putting all the pieces together, that happens. I have worked in spaces like in Auburn where it's all me. I'm loading in, and I have to bring help if I want that to work. But it just varies. It just varies on location and so on and so forth.
What's the favorite? Maybe favorite's not the right word. The set you've been the most proud of that you've done?
I'm proud of Titanic at Tacoma Musical Playhouse. We did make that thing sink, and nobody actually died, which in itself was a feat.
I was impressed. I remember even calling this out in my review with how you handled the bridge. And the bridge, which was also a lifeboat. I mean, that up and down served like 2 or 3 purposes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super.
And
cool.
I co-designed that with Dennis. Dennis is amazing. He's absolutely wonderful joy to work with over at Tacoma Musical. So, but yeah, that was a feat, and just the engineering of it. We were welding and creating all of this stuff that that wasn't there because there's no fly system.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it was probably the most fun and hardest to create safely. But yeah, we pulled it off. It worked
so
out
that
okay.
then also be your most challenging build?
I would say that was the most challenging build. I don't think it was the prettiest set because it was just kind of one location, right? Or it had to be so many different locations.
That's the challenge with Titanic. It's every deck. You've got the salon or then you've got the bridge, and you've got the crow's nest, and you've got the radio room, and it's got to be challenging.
I did enjoy building the crow's nest and the radio room, and while Dennis was doing most of the welding, I was kind of creating all of the little pieces. I actually took real images of the the first class dining salon like windows, and I recreated them and just kind of I had a lot of fun with that. I had a scenic painter that I work with, which is amazing. So I had her do the detailed stuff. But yeah, it was a lot of fun just kind of recreating that. I'm a Titanic buff anyway. But I actually down in Southern California at the Maverick, I designed the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, yeah?
So much fun. We just got all these barrels, and we had green light like glimmering, and I used foam and neon green paint everywhere, and it was just I mean, it's a silly show, but I was super happy with that one too.
Oh, great.
So just a fun thing. I do like silly shows for sure. So.
Silly shows are good. Even good to see and good to be a part of every once in a while. Drama and heavy stuff is great as far as the art of it goes.
Sure.
But sometimes you just need something lighthearted.
Yeah, especially with life being life. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So what, do you have a dream show that you'd like to build for or design for or direct for or anything?
Oh, absolutely. I have several. One of my all-time favorite shows is kind of an unknown show. It's called Footlight Frenzy. Alan Shearman was the guy who wrote it, him and Diz White and a couple other people. I had the pleasure of meeting him in Southern California. There was a small Westminster Community Theater doing it. 7 people auditioned. I was one of them, and I ended up getting this role. And in a search for the music, I actually stumbled on the phone number of the author.
Oh, yeah.
So I call him and I hear him. Now, in the 80s, HBO used to broadcast small plays on their format before HBO was big.
Yeah.
Before Game of Thrones and things of that nature. And Footlight Frenzy was one of those things. So I had a VHS tape of this, a recording of this show. Absolutely just fell in love with theater watching that. So later I meet the guy. I'm in the show. It wasn't my favorite production, I'll be honest. It was because it was such a passion project. But I've met him, and then later he was directing in Portland, and he cast me in a show in Portland. So I did El Grande de Coca-Cola, which is a little bit of a dated show now, I would say. But I got to work with him as a director as well. So now we're friends. I would love to direct Footlight Frenzy, just because it was such a passion project of mine as a kid. That one's always been. But The Wedding Singer, I want to perform I want to be Shrek really badly as a performer. Rock of Ages. There's a chance that I might be able to be directing that. It's not confirmed yet, but there are rumblings.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So lots of kind of silly things. In Southern California, we did a show that we wrote, adapted, I should say, from a public domain movie that is one of the worst movies of all time, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. But we've done it down there every single year for the past 20 years, and now when we put it online for tickets, they sell out in a week. Like it's such an immersive
favorite.
Oh yeah, immersive, silly kind of. We bring people into it, and it's a different show every night because there's a lot of improv involved. But it's a very heartwarming and silly story. So that's another one I would really love to do.
Awesome. So you're available for, obviously, regional theaters. You're available to do, you work in high schools and all of that as well. So there's, I guess, the sky's the limit with what...
well, there's so many places doing theater, from churches to schools to communities to people who are just trying to create shows or, performers that have written their own things that want to kind of produce or, want to get themselves out there. So I have 30 years experience doing this, and I thought, this is really where I love being. So I decided to just give it a go. A lot of risk involved because budgets are so low.
Sure.
But, it's one of those, I've got a passion for it, and I'm not too bad at the creation process. So I figured I'd roll with it and see if I could make it work. So
if somebody was interested in a theater or artistic director was interested in bringing you on to help with set design, set build, or any of the other 50 million things it sounds like you could do, how would they get in touch with you?
I have a website, emanconstruction.us. I know it's weird, but emanconstruction.us, so I'm available there. I'm also on Facebook under eman construction or Furuheim. I get a lot of my business, oddly enough, from Facebook, since that seems to be the communication platform in a lot of ways. So yeah, lots of different ways. I have a phone number if you'd like it, and I can give you that.
So I'm sure that's on the website.
Yeah, it's all that. So
we'll direct. We'll tag you on the Facebook post for this. We'll put your website on the show notes and make sure people get the your name out there. So I hope this helps get word out for the wonderful stuff you've been doing. And,
thank you.
Do you have anything else beyond scheduled beyond the shows other than your maybe potentially directorial of Rock of Ages?
No, not really. I know that the next season I've been asked to do stuff more over in Bainbridge as well, and like I said, I have a list of other shows that I'm doing, and that's just continually growing. I'm going to do some summer camps. I think Admiral Theater is doing some summer camps. I'm going to do some technical stuff over there, and I'm trying to teach and learn, and I love sharing the mistakes that I've made, if you will, sharing around those in terms of helping kids learn how to do this. It's like, oh, don't do that, and here's the 17 reasons I know because I've done them. You don't do that, and then this. So I think that goes a long way, and the kids really seem to kind of respond real well to me. So.
Well, that's the great thing about theater. Is theater's a family. It's the most inclusive community that I've ever been a part of, and it doesn't mean you have to be on stage acting. There's so much other opportunity to help out, and anything from running a ticket window to concessions to lighting, sound, stage. Costuming, so much opportunity to work, and it really builds your confidence because you're working together as a team to put something together that's just enjoyable to be a part of and to watch, whichever side of the curtain you're on.
Sure.
So, Erik Furuheim, once again, thank you. Eman Construction. Like I said, we'll link this in the show notes and tag you on Facebook. Please, if you need any set work, I highly recommend this gentleman. His work is phenomenal.
Thank you.
So once again, I'm Greg Heilman with the Sound on Stage. We've been behind the curtain with Erik Furuheim, Eman Construction. Until the next time, I will see you at the stage door.
Thanks so much, and thanks for doing for what you do.
Thanks.